Well, I regret to inform you that the dream is dead. Joey Bosa will not be joining Nick Bosa with the 49ers, at least here to begin the 2024 season. The Chargers and Joey Bosa have agreed to a restructured contract that paves the way for Joey Bosa to stay in LA. Reportedly, he had turned down a restructure earlier this week. I was going to put some pressure on the Chargers to cut him or trade him. Trade never materialized. The cut deadline never came. Tomorrow was supposed to be the day that Joey Bosa's $7 million roster bonus was supposed to hit. I don't know if that deadline has now changed because the roster bonus has changed. It is a different deal now, a restructured contract, one that is much more palatable for the Chargers to keep on their books, potentially a pay cut. Joey Bosa has seen a lot of injuries here over the past couple of years, but he will stay in LA under new coach Jim Harbaugh. And I'll be honest right now. I was talking about it. Guy Haberman and I did a show earlier this morning. I mentioned it to him. I've been saying it to a lot of people here over the past couple of days. I wasn't so sure that Jim Harbaugh was going to get rid of Joey Bosa. Jim Harbaugh's never seemed to be the type to want to part ways with talented players. 49ers fans should know this well. Jim took over in San Francisco back in 2011. They were 6-10 the year before, but they had a lot of talented players. And Jim Harbaugh coached that team to a 13-3 record in the NFC Championship game. The defense especially was really good in 2011. So Jim Harbaugh has inherited a good quarterback in Justin Herbert, and he's inherited some good edge rushers in Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. And earlier this week, the Chargers restructured Khalil Mack's contract, and now they've restructured Joey Bosa's contract as a way to ensure that they can keep both of those players, even though they have a tight salary cap situation. So, people saying that the Chargers were going to show up and start stripping down the roster just for the hell of it this year, I don't think, really acknowledge the fact that Jim Harbaugh might think that he can win right away. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. And if you got a quarterback and you've got two really good edge rushers, you're already ahead of a lot of teams, maybe most teams, with how good Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are. So he's going to stay. The 49ers won't be able to unite two brothers, Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa. San Francisco is going to have to work with what they have. And, they still have an opportunity, obviously, to add more. But so far in free agency, the 49ers have focused on the defensive line. And my article today in The Athletic, which is in the description, so you can go ahead and check that out, looks like this. The 49ers defensive line reboot. It's been a big, large-scale reboot. What they have and what might be next. This is the graphic that I used in the piece. So, I think this is staggering. You've got the gray shade on the player names. Those are players who are no longer with the 49ers that were last year. So that's a hell of a lot of turnover. Then blue is good performance. Red is bad performance. This is based on PFF grades, run defense grade, pass rush grade. 49ers just didn't play well along the defensive line this past season. I think a lot of it was the fact they didn't mesh well with Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator. But another part of it is they need players who fit a little bit better. They, obviously traded for Chase Young midstream. They got some good stuff out of him, some bad stuff out of him. They got some later football in Randy Gregory's career. Javon Hargrave was a good pass rusher, as you can see here. Eric Armstead was a good pass rusher, as you can see here with the blue. But there just was poor run defense up and down this list. The only blue that you see in that column, Nick Bosa, maybe a little bit from Chase Young, but he had some of the effort issues against the run. It was one of those situations where there's too much red on here, and the 49ers need to find a way to get more blue on next year's version of this chart. They have to replace 2,600 combined snaps. That's 50% of their defensive line workload. So that's what I wrote about in this article. Was this is a big reboot, the biggest that we've seen in the Shanahan era. And I think that there had been potential room for Joey Bosa on there. Had the Chargers parted ways with him, maybe he would have been willing to entertain a discount with the San Francisco 49ers because of the familial connection. But it was all just a dream until the Chargers actually let him go. And Jim Harbaugh was not in the mood to let talent leave the building in LA. So Joey Bosa sticking around. The 49ers are going to play the Chargers in the preseason, I would guess. That's happened in essentially every year. The NFL likes to keep the preseason localized. So we'll see if the 49ers head down there for some joint practices again. That happened a couple seasons ago before the 2021 year. Nick and Joey can reunite then. Brandon Staley can see his former team then. But the 49ers will not get to slot Joey Bosa into this equation. They've got to replace those 2,600 snaps. They're going to have to do it with the players that they've already signed. I talked about two of these guys, and I talked about all four, but two of these guys are in the picture here. That's Leonard Floyd and Malik Collins. Yetur Gross-Matos' contract is also out. The 49ers EL only has a $3.3 million cap hit this year, so obviously the 49ers have been able to do this from a cost-efficient basis, and they've been able to save salary cap room in both 2024 and potentially in 2025. They've also got Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle. Between the four guys that the 49ers signed, there are over 2,300 snaps played last year. So if you got to replace the 2,600 snaps as illustrated here, and you've already signed four guys who account for over 2,300 snaps last year, you could see the 49ers' firm plan to take the spots of some of these guys who are shaded in gray. 49ers also hope that their own players that have already been in the system, young guys like Drake Jackson, Kalia Davis, player Robert Beal Jr., players like that, the 49ers hope take the next step in this 2024 season to make up the rest of that snap difference. But this is by far the biggest defensive line overhaul that the 49ers have seen in the Chris Kasarik, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era. And the pipe dream of adding Joey Bosa to it is dead because Jim Harbaugh decided to keep him with the Los Angeles Chargers. Sets up for today to not be as wild as yesterday. This was 49ers Intel yesterday. What a wild day. Today, oh, hey, 49ers haven't made a signing yet. We've learned contract details for Yetur Gross-Matos, but for the 49ers, it's not going to be a Joey Bosa sweepstakes after all, with the new restructure having happened in LA. So that's your update. You should go and check out this article about building the defensive line, though, because I was able to get into a number of things. Where's Leonard Floyd going to fit into this mix? The 49ers have needed a consistent bookend to Nick Bosa. They're looking for somebody, and Floyd gave about 600 to 700 snaps in Buffalo. Chase Young was on pace to do even more than that after he came over and trade midseason. So finally, the 49ers had somebody that they could at least play there and expect some sort of production at a consistent level there. But again, there wasn't enough consistency. And there obviously were effort issues. So the effort issues, I think they believe, have been rectified with a very high motor player in Leonard Floyd. The defensive tackle additions and Malik Collins on the right there of that picture, and Jordan Elliott, who used to play for the Browns. Those two guys, though, they are mono for mono replacements for Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw. Malik Collins, they hope, is going to fit into that Armstead role. He's somebody that they really believe can give them close to 1,000 snaps. So you never want to play a guy 1,000 snaps. You want to have a deep enough rotation to avoid that. But I think they're hoping for 800 from Malik Collins next year. And then they hope that they can go to Jordan Elliott, who was a starter for the Browns, and he can give them that third defensive tackle kind of position. Kevin Givens is back with the team, by the way, 1-year deal yesterday, 454 snaps. That's not insignificant. So the 49ers are going to hope for him to deliver. On the versatile lineman side, it's Yetur Gross-Matos, and it's phenomenal that they were able to keep his cap hit down to $3.3 million this year. It's an oddly structured contract in that he has a minimum base salary this year. Base salary goes up to nearly $8 million next year, but it's not guaranteed. So if that doesn't work out, 49ers can probably part ways with Yetur Gross-Matos. But he's been a rising player for the Carolina Panthers for 4 years, and he might be the best run stopper that the 49ers have added at the defensive end position in quite a while. Obviously, Nick Bosa is good at everything, but Yetur Gross-Matos might be able to set some edges for the 49ers. He uses his length well, against the run. And then he kicks inside on some passing downs. And I'm sure that Chris Kosaric will love working with that. But it is a big time defensive line overhaul. It is something I wrote about. I've been really critical of the 49ers run defense, especially. They dropped to number 26 last year. The defense dropped from number 1 to number 12, 2022 to 2023. And yes, Steve Wilks deserves a lot of that blame. He was the defensive coordinator after all, and the personnel remained relatively steady. But one area where the 49ers did see a lot of turnover from 22 to 23 was along the defensive line, especially at the edge rusher position. They lost Charles Omenihu. They lost Sensa Mebucom. They lost Jordan Willis. I think it's really important for the 49ers to make sure that they've replenished the edge rushing position with a higher floor. You think about ceiling, and if Joey Bosa had come available, that would have been a high ceiling swing for the 49ers. But they've really tried to insulate the edge rushing floor opposite Nick Bosa with somebody like Leonard Floyd, who's played in 108 straight games, with somebody like Yetur Gross-Mato, the ascending stock over at that defensive end position. And I think they're going to try to fortify the floor some more, potentially through the NFL draft. But they've already got a fairly crowded room. They're not going to be able to take that Bosa swing. And they're hoping that what they have in that defensive line room right now can help reverse course from the bad tape that we saw last year. There was just too much red last year in these grades for the 49ers. They've got to get that run defense better. They have to shore up the position opposite Bosa. And they have to continue pass rushing well on the inside, which they did with Hargrave and Armstead. That was a big change from 2022. And even Javon Kinlaw was a good pass rusher last year. But the run defense has got to be better on the inside. That's been a weakness for the 49ers. A big part of the reason why Eric Armstead's no longer on this team. They asked him to take that pay cut. He used to be a premier run defender, just wasn't the case. I'm not sure if it was the plantar fasciitis, maybe the torn meniscus that he was playing with as well. But they've got to be better against the run on the inside. And obviously they want to set better edges opposite Nick Bosa on the outside. So Chargers are keeping Nick's brother, Joey. Not going to pan out for the 49ers. Sometimes that's just the way that things break. It's okay. 49ers will move forward. As I've said, D-line investment and free agency, they've done a lot of that so far. O-line investment in the draft, maybe a little bit of crossover if you run into a bargain, but we will see what the 49ers do next. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. That's your update. Hope you have a good lunch. We will talk to you very soon.